Hello, and my name is Jordan Del Graham from Wing Chun Qigong. Today, I wish to talk to you about one aspect of the Silnen Dao, and also its relationship to enlightenment. Firstly, uh, we'll talk a little bit about enlightenment, and then why would I say that it's related to the Silnen Dao form. And as a disclaimer, I am not enlightened or claim to be. What I'm going to provide in these sessions is reference material, so you also know where I've received this. You can go and look it up yourself. Sorry, somebody left a tissue in the wash. So you can look it up yourself, and then you can analyze that in your Silnim Tao form and see if that's a component that enhances your form. Is it something you have not been doing, and so forth? So let's start with the term enlightenment. This comes from a gnosis or knowledge of the self. So right now you might be sitting there saying, I am Joe Blow and I have this job, or I don't have a job and I do this and that. All these things are sort of on the peripheral and changing items of the self. If you look into each of these items, they're all what's called empty, or they change. And so the seeker of enlightenment is looking for the true unchangeable self. In Buddhism, it's called Buddha nature. In Taoism, it's called the Tao. Okay, so that's the little introduction about what it is. And if you have a look at Buddhist monk, they're obviously joining a monastery in search of their enlightenment. And if we look at the Silnim Dao form, it comes from the Shaolin Temple or Silnim Temple, which is where the name is based. So it could be the little idea form, or the way of the little idea, or the way of the little thought. It's just a way to translate the Chinese into English. So if you look at them and you look at the original stories of Bodhidharma, who's in that picture behind me, when he came and made his way from India to China and made it to Shaolin, he was reportedly said to have gone into a cave and created two key texts, the Yi Jing and Zi Sui Jing. Okay, so these two texts, one of them is like a health martial. Well, you can use it for martial power, right? But it's also a health text, and the other is a spiritual text. So one of them was pretty well known in the sense that a lot of martial artists and people who came out of the temple and taught other people throughout Asia would practice these Yi Jing methods, or we could say it's principles, but they turn those principles into methods. And because who doesn't want to be strong and have long life and health, right? Whilst the spiritual one, it was like, oh, it's a bit of a high ladder to climb, or it was also kept very secret. Okay, and so what I'm going to discuss here about this enlightenment technique, it is a technique that is said to lead to enlightenment. It is also, let's move into it here. The Bodhidharma is on the Jnana sect, right? Or when that went to China, became Chan, and when it went to Japan, is called Zen, and I think in Korea it's called Song. So here's a collection of translations by Thomas Cleary called Classics of Buddhism and Zen. It has 5 different texts. Those have different chapters within it, or different books contained within that. You can see there's different parts that I've marked and so forth. But there is a specific technique from the Buddhist Zen school, which I believe is inherent in the Sunim Tao. And it only makes sense that if you're in a monastery and you're practicing for enlightenment, then everything you do would want to contain a technique for that enlightenment. You wouldn't want to waste your time. So even if you're practicing the martial art, it has this enlightenment component. If you're practicing strength, it still has an enlightening component. All right. Now, that technique is called turning the light around. What does that mean? It is a technique I've seen and it's written about in these books. I would have to say the one that I found, all of them are rather direct, but um, the one that I found very direct is Minding Mind. It has specific techniques on how to actually meditate in a seated position. And there is also, let's see if this is the one I got marked out. No, it's not. There is a master in here who's a Korean, famous Korean master. And the way he speaks in that is very direct. And one of the things he says is there's no need to go searching for the Buddha, for your own mind is the Buddha. So what he's pointing to there is, for example, you're going to be looking at the screen right now and you'll see me. So you're focusing on this object of me. But who is the one looking? Who's the one looking at me? When you turn around and you look at the subjective I-ness or beingness that is perceiving the object in the distance, that is what is meant by turning the light around. Most of the time, all of our senses are facing outwards. We're looking out, we're smelling senses out, we're listening outwards. And so the technique itself, and also with thoughts, you're clinging to thoughts. And all of these senses, there's 6 senses, right? Your feeling, which goes all over your body, your taste, your nose, your eyes, your ears, and your thoughts. The mind tends to go out and grasp at them. But when we turn the light around, we are taking that a perceptual modality of looking out and turning it around to look at the subject. And so you can practice that right now as you're listening to me. You can still listen to me, but turn around and focus in on the one that is hearing and listening, the one that is seeing. And so it's a nice, it's a neat little exercise in that respect, because you have the subject, and we're just going to take sight, for example. You have the subject, you have the object, and then you have the consciousness of seeing. So a little technique for you is to move through them. There's the object. Yep, cool. There's the subject. I've turned the light around. And what is the essence of seeing? And that open awareness of seeing. So you can play with those, and each one, when you touch on it, see what happens to the other ones. Do they dissipate? Do they stay the same? Do they get bigger? So when we set ourselves up in the Silnam Tao, you would have seen in the last videos, I spoke of the Yi Ji Kim Yang Ma. And when I spoke of them, I spoke mostly of the physical structure, which is your posture. It's all about your posture. You need to have the right posture. When the Buddha taught his son, he said to him, keep your spine straight, keep your mind straight. It's a beautiful, beautiful teaching, and you'd want to give the most direct and non-BS teaching to your son, wouldn't you? And so last time in these videos, I've been giving you the techniques from the Yi Ji Kim Yang Ma that teach you to keep your spine straight. This lesson is about keeping your mind straight. And it took me a long time to sort of go, what does the Buddha mean when he keeps his mind straight? Now, I must confess, I don't know that he meant exactly this, but I have to say that's my belief, right? It's my belief, since if we look at these Zen texts where they are lineage holders from the Buddha, that it's referring to this methodology of taking your awareness and turning it around on itself. Now, one of the things with the Silnam Tao is it is a Qigong exercise. And I'll tell you right now, if you want to increase your levels of qi in your body, there are multiple techniques, but one of them, inherent, is this one that I'm giving you right now. So even if you don't believe it's a enlightening technique, which it's already sort of confessed by the monks here that it is, well, you can at least look at it and say, well, it's a technique that at least increases my energy. And if you believe that and understand that, then it already is an enlightenment technique, because the increasing of Jing into Qi and the transformation of this Qi to enrich the Shen, to reach Wu, and to reach the Tao is the pathway to enlightenment. And so we know that the Buddhists, in a sense, they focus in on the mind path, or as Bodhidharma is saying behind me here, all is consciousness. And we look at the Taoist school, and they do focus a lot on the bodily path. If you even look at these last couple of videos I've given you, I gave you a bodily path of keeping the spine straight. And now you could stand there by maintaining your posture. And then by maintaining your posture and doing what I spoke about of Tai Gong and raising the spirit, that the Ba Hoi point is lifted within. This technique is called returning or protecting the center. So these two techniques are actually yoked together. You protect the center and then you turn the light around. There is a final technique that goes with that. And if you add that in, you will achieve the correct meditative state to produce the qi within your body. In Qigong circles, they normally refer to that as sinking the qi. I'll probably save that for a future video, but I wish to disclose, and I don't wish to pick on anyone or anything like that, but there are people out there who say it's simply a matter of diaphragmatic deep breathing. Diaphragmatic deep breathing is a core component, of course it is. But you have to get the right mixture of these things that I'm talking about. And there is another part with this. If you reach the correct state, your heart rate itself would decrease. That's true. And what will happen is there is a correct type of breathing that ensues. So when we talk about the sinking the chi, I will probably park all of that stuff in there. This session, I just hope it's something, I don't know, don't know if I've ever seen someone talk about it, and I just wanted to disclose it to you. So the next time you practice your Xiunan Tao, you need to be able to turn the light around and focus it within the one that is looking. Now, there's something that's extremely important I need to discuss about this. There is a lower vehicle and a higher vehicle. Why not give it to you, right? The lower vehicle is the one that tries to do the technique, that focuses in and concentrates. Nothing wrong with that. And matter of fact, it's probably where you need to begin, because your mind, it will be so full of thoughts and so full of emotions that you will need something to be able to calm the mind. And the stage of doing that is the concentrative technique. Once the mind is finally calm, for myself, the result of the calmness came about because I opened the energy channels within my body. So where years ago when I used to sit and meditate, move and meditate, do this and that, in the mornings, the previous day's work and the things that went on used to pollute my mind, and I'd be attached to them. But these days, I can step aside from that mind. I'm not trying to suppress it. Of course, it's always here because I communicate and so forth. But it's a technique of non-doing and non-trying. Another way to also look at it is It is an open awareness. Since it is a martial art, you would want to be open to all the senses, since somebody or something or many bodies could be attacking you from any angle, front and back, left and right, above, below. So you should have your awareness. Not only is it turning the light around, but there's an open awareness 360 degrees all around. Otherwise, if what happens when your adrenals kick in a real fight, and if you lose it, and you get that adrenaline dump, that's when you get that focused state and you get a bit blindsided. Sometimes it could be good in the sense that it slows time down and you can see things coming. Other times it can be a bit detrimental if, for example, if fear kicked in too much, you'd freeze up and you'd lose your vision and contract in. So please don't think the turning around the light technique is about contracting in. It's not a contractive method. A contractive method is a method of the mind. We want to go beyond the mind to the level of what's called spirit, and that is consciousness. All right. Well, next time you do your Silam Tao, maybe put some music on to this monkey mind. Eventually, if it quells down, um, it is a preliminary step in that the mind is still, and then you're using these other, what I call, it could be spirit functions, to play with your Silnim Tao. All the best.